I always feel like I'm one of the least qualified in the room. Almost any room I walk into, I'm just like, I don't belong here.
Oh, same here.
Or
I'm that way all the time.
so it's almost, I mean, some people might define that as humility. I think I heard this phrase a couple years ago, and it kind of scared me. People think of pride as like just real arrogant people. Like you can think of a prideful person that just walks in and they think they're the best in the room all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're no fun to be around. But somebody told me they're like the opposite, kind of what I feel like I carry is also pride.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to a Conversation with Matthew. I'm Matthew Sanchez, and I am so glad. I'm so glad I can shout. I'm so glad that you chose this particular time out of your day to spend with me. Listen, my intention with every single episode that you hear on this podcast is always to plant a seed of inspiration in the hopes that it grows into your transformation. I'm all about self-development, and I'm all about encouraging people. So if you like what you've heard and you like the movement, share it. Because like Dr. Maya Angelou says, when you learn, you teach. When you get, you give. Thank you so much.
Brought to you by MSW Productions.
Ian, let me tell you, first of all, when we've had conversations before, and anytime we have a conversation, it's always like not planned.
Yeah.
But we wish I leave our conversations, our little small conversation, like wanting more to talk to you about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know Ian Allen, he is such a good friend of mine's, but you're such a great role model for me. You know what I mean? Like, I know you do production at the church, Church of the Highlands, where we attend, but like when I look at the kind of father you are and how you handle things, like it means so much. Like, I'm such a watcher.
Yeah.
I'm such a watcher, and how you move in this world, the base of how I've seen you, is so encouraging to me, but also so uplifting. You know what I mean? That makes sense?
Yeah.
I never told you that.
It's like I'm on roller skates.
I never told you that before.
No.
So you're a father
Yep.
of two. There goes that fly again, Lord.
Steve, is that what we're calling
Yeah,
it?
Steve. Steve is flying around here.
I may zap him.
You're a husband
Yep.
to one.
Yes.
Let's be clear.
Yes. Not Old Testament. This is the New Testament marriage.
Right. But you also, before you became a production guy for Highlands, you were a pastor, right? So you were like a pastor for pastors. I think I may have heard that.
Yeah, right? I feel like my list of things I haven't done is shorter than things I have done. I don't even know how to answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been leading worship for probably 25 plus years, so you could call that a worship pastor.
Okay.
I've been a student pastor at multiple churches, so there's that. I've been a part of Sunday morning services and preaching at those, so there's that. I run a nonprofit called Imminent Worship that really pours into local churches and their worship pastors and their worship teams. So that might be what you're referring to in the sense of pastoring pastors, which is a lot of what my wife Jenna is recently embarked on too. Just pastors'
Who's
wives
awesome in her own right.
Yes,
She's awesome.
Yes,
very
she
creative.
is. Shout out to my probably more creative than me wife. So I really have done a lot of things at our church now. Prior to production, I was in Highlands Kids for about a year and a half. So that was so there's that. I wasn't the kids pastor. I was I kind of had a unique role back there, but a heavy emphasis on small groups. And then I taught elementary school. That's what I went to college for.
Yeah, because we have mutual friends, me and Nick.
Yes.
I don't know Nick like you know Nick, but
Gotcha.
We both were in special ed, And I assume, I just believe all special ed kids know each other, honestly.
For sure, yeah.
Because they have us this big program and we all meet each other, stuff like that. But I didn't know that you had taught him.
Yes. So he was actually in my first class. He was my first.
Wow.
So when I came out of college, he was in my first group,
Really?
which was, man, almost 16 years ago, maybe, which is
Really?
hard to believe.
Yeah, because I think me and Nick are the same graduating class. So that was
Okay.
I think so. I think he's probably a year older than me though. A year
Okay.
before
I'm
me.
not positive how old he is or what year that was. But actually, I mean, he sends my kids cards on their birthdays. I got a card last week from him for no reason. It was like, hey, thinking about you.
Oh.
It's got 50 pictures of horses on it because he loves horses
Must not
and a
be
Bible
good-
verse.
It
Like,
must not be a good friend.
oh man, yeah.
He don't know my address, so yeah, but we're just mutual
As
friends.
soon as I send him your address, you will have
Okay,
a card.
okay, I would
He will
love
probably
that.
backlog for the last 15. You'll get a bunch of cards. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So you do all these things though. I mean,
Yeah.
you're so. What's probably the most favorite thing you get to do?
Oh my goodness. Favorite?
Yeah.
I'm loving the production world right now. Like
Really?
that's yeah.
Okay.
It's new in the sense of like even I laughed like even when this role became available last summer, my name was kind of one of a pool of people.
Yeah.
Let's put Ian's name in the mix. And I think some of the powers that be or some of the decision making people saw my name on the list and were like, maybe let's go with one of these other like my resume didn't line up with the quality and the amount of work that this
Right.
position takes. Like
Right.
there's a lot. We've got a lot of toys at the church. There's a lot of
Which I know nothing about, so I'm so glad they never asked me. And I'm glad that they've asked me to do video stuff. And
Yeah.
Because if you put me in that area, I'll be on YouTube all day trying to figure it out. So
hey, but that's how we learn these days.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I mean, seriously, I came into it and the team of volunteers, we call them dream teamers, but like the team that was already in place, they were all smarter than me. So like I
Right.
came in as their leader and was like, hey, just so we're clear, you guys all know this equipment better than I do. So like teach me. So
Yeah.
like honestly, for the first year, and I'm still, but really the first year of that role, I had to just be a student and just stand beside my team and be like, all right, why'd you press that? How do you turn that on?
let me tell you something. I think that's the best thing for any leader.
Yeah.
Any new leader. I think you lose your ability to lead when you lose your ability to be a student.
Yeah.
Like the best leaders I know are the best students.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
If
Like-
you want that phrase to start with the same letters, so there's the pastoral side of like, I got 3 points and they all start with,
come on. Put it
what'd you
together.
say? You lose your ability to lead when you lose your desire to learn. L's, come on.
That's good. That's
But yeah,
good.
like I
Oh.
probably to a fault, and this is just a wrestle probably with just insecurity, and
Yeah.
there's probably a whole bag we could unpack. But like I always feel like I'm one of the least qualified in the room. Almost any room I walk into, I'm just like, I don't belong here.
Oh,
or
same here.
Or
I'm that way all the time.
so it's almost, I mean, some people might define that as humility. I think I heard this phrase a couple years ago and it kind of scared me. People think of pride as like just real arrogant people. Like you can think of a prideful person that just
Yeah.
walks in and they think they're the best in the room
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they're no fun to be around. But somebody told me they're like the opposite, kind of what I feel like I carry is also pride, because it's not just thinking a lot about yourself. Like I'm high status or I'm high whatever. It's
Well-
thinking about yourself a lot.
Oh, I'm getting a download.
We need to
That
write all
was
this
so
down.
good.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
so good.
Jenna needs to be sitting here just scripting it all
I'm
like a
telling
court
you,
case.
That was so good. Break that down for me.
Yes. So I've kind of always defined pride as like somebody that's got a big head, or they're arrogant, or they're just constantly complimenting themselves,
Right.
or look what I did, look
Right.
at me. So that would be somebody that thinks a lot about themselves.
Right.
They think I'm the best.
Right.
But you flip the words around, and pride is somebody that thinks about themselves a lot. So even if it's in a negative sense, even every time I walk in the room, if it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this stuff, or he's scaring me, or I'm people pleasing, or I don't want to make this person upset. If my frame of reference is constantly around how I feel or what I'm doing wrong, or I hope I don't mess this up, that's pride too. Because
Wow.
you're not focused on others.
I have never thought about it like that.
And so, and especially in the faith world, like in in a relationship with God. Like you're not, if you're constantly thinking about your inadequacies, then you're never relying on his strength. Because I think so many times, at least for me, I think of so many seasons or scenarios where, whether it's relational or friendships or opportunities, doors were opened that I never had the qualifications to walk through. Like it wasn't my resume that got me in those rooms.
Right.
And so if my thought process is constantly thinking about how I don't belong, then I'm not
That is prideful.
walking in the faith of like, wow, look what the Lord did. Like you're right. Because I think humility is knowing you don't belong.
Yeah.
But walking humbly in faith that like, look what God did. Like God opened this
Yeah.
door. And then the reverse, like if your deadly sin or your struggle is pride, like the arrogance, big head type, then maybe you do belong in that room. Maybe you are the smartest person qualified and you do belong there, but humility is choosing, like it says in, I think it's Philippians, it says that even Jesus, knowing who he was as the Son of God, lowered himself. Like, so if that's the wrestle that you have, then when you walk into a room, you go, you know what? I'm here to serve. I might be the smartest guy in the room in the back of my head. Like I know I might be the oldest, the most knowledgeable, I have the most schooling, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm going to intentionally lower myself and just be a peer to everybody in the room.
Makes
serve people.
sense.
Like, hey, let me get you a water, not let me snap and let my assistant bring my water to me. Like, so humility is always a choice, whether you think very little of yourself or you think a lot of yourself. Humility is kind of that middle ground of like, regardless of what I think about myself, I'm gonna lower not lower my standard. That's the wrong phrase, but like I'm gonna become one with everybody in the room.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna serve people, and I'm gonna honor people, and I'm gonna share my ideas, but I'm also gonna let other people share their idea. Like my idea is not the best idea,
Right.
and it's probably not the worst idea either. So if I hang out in either camp of like, hey, my idea is just an idea on the table, and let's throw them all out there.
How do you learn that though? How do you learn that being a new leader, being somebody in a leadership position? How do you get to a place where you're not so consumed with these prideful thoughts that you don't even know that that's pride?
Yeah. Man, I don't know if there's one right answer. I think the Holy Spirit has got to do some work on you. I know some people that, and myself included, I think there's things that we all carry longer than we were ever meant to carry them. So I think there's people that like probably shoulda, coulda laid that down a long time ago, and they're still carrying it. And you're like, my word, you're watching from a distance going, how do you not see this? I know I've also probably been that person, and other people are looking in on me. So the Holy Spirit's definitely got to be at work in that and like revealing some things to you.
You gotta be open to hear too. Like,
But here's, I see, actually taught something on this probably it was in 2020. So I guess 3 years back, 4 years, depending on when this episode releases.
Yeah.
But there's
It's
a
gonna be
passage.
about this year.
Yeah. Maybe 6 years. 2026. Welcome. We're so glad you guys are here.
Yeah.
There's a passage in James where it talks about humbling yourself before the Lord, and then he will lift you up.
Right.
So there's an order. I kind of taught on these 3 or 4 verses, and like there's actually like steps, like do this and then this happens, do this, and you can't skip steps. It's like a recipe.
Right.
But humility's coming either way. So either you will be humiliated, or you can self-choose. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's pause. Commercial brought to you by our sponsors.
Okay.
Starts with the same letters, Matthew.
Okay, Ian. Okay. That was good. Say that again. Say that again for the people who were like didn't want to hear it, but they need to hear it.
If humbleness is always the goal or the end result, it's going to happen one of 2 ways. I can make the intentional choice to be humbled,
Right.
or to humble myself.
Okay.
Or if I don't make that choice, it will be made for me, and that's called humiliation. And that's when it's in the public eye, and that's when it's embarrassing, and that's when, but it always comes. Watch leaders. You can watch leaders lead at a high level, whether they're political leaders, church leaders, whatever, athletes, Hollywood, whatever. You can see the people that choose humility, and you're like, my word, they're so humble, they're so gracious, they're so generous. They could not be meaner than that, but like their status, they're high level people,
And
but
how
they
they
just
handle the
choose
situation.
humility. And then you watch the other side, And there's just, I've seen speeches, and this is church world and this is secular world.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen athletes, and you just watch the way they carry themselves, and it hurts, but you just look at them and you go, your day's coming. This is going to crumble.
Yeah.
And if you don't decide to get there first,
Yeah, you can feel it too.
it's going to happen.
You can always feel that in the room. Like I'm such a feeler guy. Like there are certain pastors, certain people that I know of and leaders.
Yeah.
And you can always feel when something is shifting them.
Yeah.
And their humility is just going out the door.
Yeah.
You can always shift.
Yeah.
And it's like disappointing because God is giving you this platform to lead his people, and you are so out of touch with yourself that you can't even see how what you just said was so out of character. I didn't see no humility in anything you just said.
Yeah.
Like that scares me for leaders who don't see it. And honestly, I don't know if they want to see it.
Right.
Because they get for some people, Ian, they get to a level where they know everything. They don't need any advice or anything.
Yeah.
And you can get to a level like that without even realizing you're in that level. That makes sense?
Yeah. You got blinders on.
Exactly.
It's not, because I think there are some that probably know it and just keep pressing through and refuse to acknowledge it. But I honestly think most of the time you're so blind to it, which is a scary place.
Yeah, it
when
is.
the people around you see something that you don't see, that's a scary place.
So give me some keys that every leader should do when they're a fresh leader.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if fresh leader is the right term, because I think people can be born leaders. I think anybody can be a leader. You just work at it better.
Yeah.
But give me something that all leaders need to know when it comes to not just being humble, but leading effectively.
Something all leaders need to know. Man, there's so much. I think a phrase that just popped in my head was, "You're always replaceable."
Okay.
So
okay,
as soon as you start to think no one else could do this but me, that's kind of a nudge of like, hey, be careful.
Right. Okay.
Every job is fireable. I mean, I've seen where I feel like where I've seen the dangerous side of leadership the most is when people start things. So like if I'm the owner or the CEO, or I launched this initiative, this is my company or this is my church. If I'm the one that started it, that's where I see am I looking in the right direction?
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
That's where I start to see nobody could replace me.
Yeah. Which is, some leaders get that way.
And
especially if everything's going well.
Yeah.
And you've had such a great impact on it. It's always going well. And that's not necessarily true.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, that's one. You said, give me a couple. Because as soon as you realize you're always replaceable, then you will, I think you'll lead better, just because you realize that, like, hey, somebody else is going to, I can't think of any role I've ever had. I mean, I'm almost 40 years old, which is,
what?
Maybe I'm 50 when this episode comes out. I don't know. Get it out quick, Matthew. I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Get it out before I'm 40.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not one church I've been at my entire life. There wasn't one school I attended my entire life. Like, there's change is inevitable, and the length of the seasons changes. Like, there's I've never lived in one city my whole life.
Yeah.
Now, I know some of those things people have been at one church, or they have been in one city, but like, seasons change and your circumstances change and your environments change. So like, for me to ever be in a position that I think is only going to be under my leadership for the rest of my life,
it's ridiculous.
But we still do it.
You're going to die.
Yeah.
You could die tomorrow.
I'm going to be this. Nobody's going to lead this but me.
Right. Like such a dangerous place to be in.
But I think when you're young too, so like, I mean, you talked about new leaders or fresh leaders. I think when you're young and you're stepping into leadership, so you're kind of at the bottom of that.
Yeah.
You're just coming into it.
Yeah.
And there's other leaders that have been in it for a while. And then there's a tier of leaders that are kind of slowly coming out of it. So you've got really three groups of people in the leadership realm.
Right.
I heard somebody say many years ago, I was either in high school or college, leading some things in that season of life, but I definitely wasn't in the capacity of leadership I'm in today, and probably didn't even see my life heading in that direction. But
Really?
he said something along the lines of like, every leader should always be seeking, and this is a major paraphrase, but you should always be looking for who's going to take your place. And I was like, why in the world would I do that? Like, the goal of leadership is to reach that destination.
Wow.
Like if I'm not the CEO, or if I'm not the president, or if I'm not the campus pastor, or if
Yeah.
I'm not the fill in the blank, if I'm not the principal of the high school,
Yeah.
why in the world would I be looking for the next principal? My goal is to become that. Like, so if I am the campus pastor, which is, depending on where you go to church, that's kind of the highest level of leadership in that organization.
Yeah.
Why would I reach the destination I've been striving for and then immediately begin looking
Look
for
for
who's going to
somebody
take my
else.
place? And so
I never thought about it like that.
it sounds scary, because I think society tells us that once we reach that, then hold on to it as long as possible. Like, you want to be, if we're talking sports, you want to be the starting quarterback. You don't want to be the guy sitting the bench in case he gets hurt.
Yeah.
And so once I reach that destination, I'm doing everything in my ability to get better at that gift. So if I'm a communicator, I'm going to conferences and reading books, and I want to become a better communicator. I'm not looking for who could do this better than me.
Yeah. Who could replace me? Yeah. Maya Angelou. So Oprah was buying her school in South Africa for her school, for her leadership school for girls, and she was telling Maya about it, and she was so emotional because the school was open and they had the groundbreaking and all that, and she was like, Maya, this is gonna be my greatest legacy. She's on the phone crying to Maya Angelou, and Maya says in her deepest voice, she says, "You have no idea what your legacy is.
Yeah.
Your legacy is every life you touch."
Yeah.
And I think about that quote because I think when you're a leader, your legacy is every life you touch, right? But you're also some kind of way preparing that one person who's watching you.
Yeah.
You're preparing them for their leadership position, or maybe yours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think the hardest question is, how do you find those qualities in that person? Like, how do you know without sitting down and having coffee with each one and say, hey, would you be willing?
Yeah.
How do you know? What are you looking for? What defines a great leader in those young stages?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to circle back to that, because I love that you said the word legacy,
Mm-hmm.
because and I think that's where I've learned that quote that I mentioned about always looking for somebody to replace you. Didn't make sense then. Probably fully doesn't make sense now, but it makes way more sense than it did. Because if it's about having an impact and it's about making a difference, which should be your goal as a leader,
Yeah.
then you want to develop as many leaders as possible, because it's multiplication.
Yeah.
If I'm the only one having an impact, then that's only going to go so far.
Exactly.
If I am building
good.
other leaders that are also having an impact, it compounds the influence you're going to have.
Oh, that's good.
And so if I'm looking for, because the reality is I might be the smartest one in the room, but I'm not the smartest one in this city.
Mm-hmm.
I might be the smartest one at this church, and I'm just saying things, but I'm not the smartest one in the global church, in the Big
Right.
C church.
Right.
So there's always somebody smarter, wiser, older, all the things than you. So if I'm constantly looking for, if my goal is to influence more people, whatever, if this is corporate or this is church, if my goal is to have a greater impact, then why would I not want somebody in my seat? If they do it better than me, then I'd rather them be in this seat than me, because they're going to have more impact.
Right, absolutely. Tyler Perry was in an interview with one of his staff members who's now got her own podcast, and one thing he said in the interview is that I'm the CEO of the company, but the president is way much more smarter than me.
Yeah,
and it's a woman president. She became woman president back in October, I think, of last year. She's much smarter than me and much wiser than me when it comes to leading thousands of people. I just want to create.
Yeah.
I want to make the shots and make the calls, but she can get the people to do it.
Right.
Make sense?
Right.
Like that. I think that's a huge a huge, when you, as a leader, when you can identify that if you're building a business of that magnitude, like Tyler Perry or Oprah or somebody's in a big business, right?
Yeah.
Or even Pastor Chris, his church is so big, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have people who are smarter than you that can do things that you probably can't do.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
That's one of the biggest things I've learned at the church we're at now.
Yeah.
That I haven't experienced in any other. I mean, I've been in ministry. I've been a part of many churches. Like, I've been in the church scene most of my life.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest things that I've learned at Highlands is the value of building a team, because you can't do it all alone.
No.
And especially the larger your church is, which Highlands is a big church, it's like it would be overwhelming to most. But if you build a good team,
Come on.
it's less stressful than some of the very small churches that I've worked at.
Absolutely.
It's really, I feel like a good leader, and maybe this isn't always the case, but I feel like a good leader, a great leader, plays the role of a coach. So if I'm coaching a team, I might be terrible at throwing a ball, but I'm going to go find the best quarterback in the nation, and I'm going to pour into him, and I'm going to disciple him, and I'm going to equip him. I'm going to equip him and train him and give him everything he needs to be the best quarterback he can be. And our team's going to win games.
Yeah.
And it's not because I threw a ball, because we would lose every single game if I was the one throwing the ball. But as a leader, you are putting, like if you're leading a church, I might be a terrible kids pastor. I might want to pull my hair out when I'm around kids.
Yeah.
But if I want my church to grow and we want to influence families that have kids and we want to make a difference in our community, I'm going to go find the best, most sweetest, sit on the floor and color
teacher, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go find the person that absolutely loves that, and I'm going to build a team around. And so now our kids ministry is thriving. It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
But that's got to start at a place of humility, because if it has everything to do with me, then it's not going to grow.
Yeah. How does one leader find the next leader?
Yeah. So much of it, I think, just falls out. I think of so many scenarios where I've picked the leaders that I want on my team. Maybe just availability. So depending on what roles I need filled,
right,
I go, well, okay, well, this person, they're in college, they got a lot of free time, so I'm gonna pick them. Or could be relationally, it could be I'm picking my friends because we get along, and it's like, man, I would love to run with these people and do life with them. So I think it's a mixed bag of things. I don't know if there's one right answer, but I think so much of it, in order to find leaders that'll last, you just see it. Like I think of so many scenarios where, like I said, where I've picked my friends because I thought they'd be fun to roll with, and that ends up hurting the relationship because they don't actually have
the qualities
I was looking for.
That's good too, though. Let's stay right there, because listen, I don't know who's listening, but hopefully a young person who wants to own a business, or maybe is going to be in a position where he or she has to lead people. Listen, you will always fail. You will always fail if you pick because the relationship is just makes sense.
Yeah.
You will always fail when you're picking for leaders to be on your team. If you choose the leader or the person based on how long you've known them.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't mean that they're going to do well. Not only does it mean they're going to do well, that doesn't mean that they're called to do what you're asking them to do as a leader.
Right.
That makes sense? But okay, go ahead, finish.
And you find what's unfortunate is it actually sets you back because you find that out later.
Right.
They're loyal to you.
And then you're behind.
Yeah.
You're behind on anything.
Yeah. They're loyal to you. And so they say yes because they want to support you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get in the weeds and work gets hard. And like you said, if it wasn't something they're passionate about or they're called to do, they'll want to quit.
Right.
And now you're 6 months in, 2 years in, and you lose your key second man, right-hand man.
Yeah.
And now that affects your friendship too. So your business is struggling, and now it's like, man, I don't want to be friends with him. He left me hanging.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Now that relationship has just deteriorated.
Yep.
Because you made a choice that was based on a feeling, I guess.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So you said the way a leader finds another leader, it's just something about that person.
Yeah, I think of some of the most successful leaders that I've seen rise up in the last, let's just say the last 10 years. It's almost been people that I wouldn't have put on paper.
Mm,
So like if I had a sit down meeting and said, "All right," even if they weren't leaders that like were working alongside me, but
yeah,
just, "Hey, who are the people that are going to rise up and lead things in the near future?" I'd
yeah,
probably make a list of like, "Okay, well this kid, he just got his master's and this like I'd probably write down some like qualifying factors."
yeah,
And then almost always it's this nobody out of left field that nobody knew. People are looking around going, "Who's that guy? Who's that
yeah,
girl? Where'd they come
yeah.
from?" And it's
Didn't even know they knew how to do that.
exactly. And so so I think it's such a hard question to answer in the sense of like, how do you find those people? You One, you just got to keep your eyes open, eyes and ears.
Yeah,
I think the ones that miss it are the ones that aren't looking for it.
yeah.
Um,
Mm.
And then two, if you don't know, and this is more of the challenge to the leader, if you don't know what good leadership is, then you won't know it when you see it.
Oh,
So you could have somebody in your midst that would be phenomenal,
that's good.
but because it's not what you're looking for, you haven't thought twice to pull them into your circle.
That's good.
Um,
That's really good. That's good. So you got first you got to identify what a good leader is,
yeah,
and then you'll know how to pick.
yeah. And if your heart is not, again, there's so many factors to it. If your heart is not to raise up other leaders, then you'll never look for them. Like you could have so many in your midst.
Which I think every leader listening, your heart. That's the number. That's probably the number one rule of this conversation is
Yeah.
always look for somebody to replace you.
And to help others succeed. There's a quote that I've heard 100 times to this point. I don't even know who actually said it. I've read
Yeah.
it in books and heard it. I feel like it might be John Maxwell. Shout
well,
out to
Right.
our
He's
next
the leader.
sponsorship. Yeah,
Oh,
for that. Yeah, there you go. I feel like this is where it came from, but he says my greatest success is the success of others. And it's like,
Yes.
but what that means is you've got to be okay with watching other people succeed
Mm.
and succeeding beyond your success. Like to be a truly humble leader, I have to get so excited when somebody surpasses me and gets a bigger opportunity than I've ever had, gets a bigger platform than I've ever spoken.
That's
Like
really good.
for me, I go, "Oh, okay, good." Like I'm actually making a difference and having an impact if the people that I'm investing in are
Doing
being successful.
right. That's good. That's really good. I hope you didn't miss that.
Pause it, write it down.
Right. I hope they
Not
didn't
if you're
miss that.
driving, pull over.
Yeah, pull over or screenshot the time so you can go back and listen to it. Then I hope they didn't miss that. That was really good. That was really good.
So let's flip it on you now.
Yeah.
I've seen all kinds of doors recently just burst open for just of opportunity. You lead a lot of things at our church. I don't even know if somebody said, "What does Matthew do at church?" I don't even know how I'd answer their question because you're everywhere. You're in every room.
Yeah.
Doing stuff. You're doing your own stuff
Yeah.
professionally. You're also helping so many people help their businesses out. So I would absolutely consider you a leader. And I don't know a ton of your past. I know a little bit of your story,
Yeah.
but I think what I do know, there's not been a lot of schooling or training. You didn't go to this leadership college. Like
No.
your resume probably looks pretty unqualified,
For sure.
but yet your opportunities are abounding. So like catch me up on that. Like
Wow.
how are you doing what you're doing today? And was there a time I would assume I'm assuming through my own filter and my own mind, but I would
Yeah.
assume there's been moments in your life where either people have told you like, man, you'll never amount to anything, but like, Matthew, you're never going to do anything.
Yeah.
You're never going to be successful at that.
Yeah.
Or like, good luck with that. You'll quit in a year. Like, so just demeaning statements made in your
Of
direction.
course.
But there's probably also been the internal dialogue
Yeah.
of your own mind going, why even try this? This isn't going to work out. I don't have enough knowledge. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't have enough equipment. The money's not there to even buy so how, like, take me on that journey a little bit of maybe some disappointment in early years. And then here you are today. And I think you're just scratching the surface. Like, I think the things that you're even involved in today are just going to explode. And,
Well, I appreciate that.
but like, how old are you right now?
25. I'll be 26.
5 years
November the 18th.
ago, would you have written any of this down? Would you have said, "Man, when I'm
No,
25, here's what I'm going to be doing"?
no, Ian. I wanted to listen. Contrary to what other people thought I wanted to do, or what I thought I wanted to do, I wanted to be I was a Michael Jackson
Oh my
impersonator.
goodness.
I'm telling you, I was a Michael Jackson fan. This was not in the plans to do any of this. I wanted to sing like Michael. I wanted to dance like Michael, and I did that for about probably 6 years. I was in from 5th grade all the way. I stopped right at when I got to high school. So I stopped. So I started at 5th grade, went all through middle school impersonating Michael Jackson, and then I stopped right in high school. So this, let me tell you, um, I've always been this person. Let's just be clear. Like
Yeah.
I've always been the person or the kid that always gave advice, that always created great conversations around people. It wasn't until I got in high school that this became a skill.
Okay.
This became like an art form for me. Like it came. Like I studied how to speak in a very approachable way, if that's the right word, so that people want to listen, or maybe a potent way that people want to listen. It was in high school, and I remember because Mr. Lamb, who was the announcer for the band, he loved my voice, and he's a great leader because he was the announcer for the band. He trained me to take his place,
Wow.
right? And I was doing that for probably my whole entire high school year, and I did it 2 years after I graduated. So what I'm saying is that this was not in the plans. This was not in the plans to do this, to do what I'm doing now. But I think God somehow, in some way, like everything that I wanted to do back then is so beneficial to me now.
Wow.
Like I was performing in front of people, a shy kid. I stuttered as a young adult, not a young adult, but as a young kid, I stuttered a little bit. But I was still performing, so therefore I can be on a stage now and not
Yeah.
have any kind of stage fright or not be have bubble guts or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so as far as the speaking wise, it was Mr. Lamb that saw my voice, that gave me a voice. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
That even told me that, wow, my voice is pretty nice. It sounds pretty nice on audio and stuff like that. Maybe this could be a thing.
Wow.
So what I'm saying is that God used all of that
For sure.
to what I'm doing today, which is a full on influencer to people to get, be inspired by. But it hasn't always been easy.
Yeah.
And I think when I started doing this full on, like when I knew this was a real thing you could do as a person, this could be a job, I think the enemy attacked me even more because now I've got people watching me.
Right.
Right. Ooh, excuse me. I think you can touch on that. Like when you're a leader, the enemy probably attacks you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because you got people like flock to you.
Right.
So it's been 5 years, and I'm so grateful that I get to do this work, but also I'm always on my knees. Always. Listen, I'm either going into something or coming out of something. I'm just being real, right?
Yeah.
So man, thank you, God.
Yeah.
Thank the God. I hope I answered that. Was that answer your question?
No, that's
Did I
great.
answer your question?
That's great.
So Michael Jackson went from Michael Jackson to now podcaster, influencer.
I feel like that's gonna come back in somewhere.
I believe
Like,
so too.
Full circle. Like
I don't know when, but I believe so too because I love
maybe
music.
my 40th birthday, we're
Okay.
gonna hire you as a Michael Jackson.
Hey, listen. Wait a minute. Let me tell you something, Ian. Wait a minute. That was back in my skinny days.
You still got that outfit?
No,
No.
No. I never bought any Michael Jackson outfits. There's this place called On Time Fashion downtown
Yep.
that I bought all my costumes and clothes from, and I just made my own costumes.
Oh, my word.
So I made them all, and then I would look at Michael Jackson's what he was wearing, and I would try to find the same material, same thing. But I guess that probably explains why I'm so creative today, because my mom didn't have money to buy those costumes, so I had to make my own costumes. So
That's
everything just
cool.
wore full circle. You know what I mean? What a great God we serve. Honestly,
Yeah.
like when I think about my life and where it's going to go and where it's been, I can't do nothing but thank God. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
listen, your boy at a young age had his life against him. Like, I was in foster care at a young age.
Wow.
My aunt started raising me, and my grandmother raised me, and then my mom started raising me. Right at started elementary school. Dad wasn't in my life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
this life just happened at such a before I even knew what pain was. It
Right.
just happened,
Right.
and the fact that I've got such a great family now. Like,
Wow.
they're so healthy, and like how God is using me in this way. It's just what a blessing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, mm.
How important is that in really in anybody's journey? I don't want this whole episode to necessarily be about leadership,
No,
but
no,
like
no, no. Listen,
how important is the people you surround yourself with in any scenario of life, but even as a leader, like in order to grow as a leader, like how important is the circle you surround yourself with?
well, let me tell you. Um, they say you are who you hang around,
Mm,
and that is true to a point. But I think if you know who you are,
that's
even at
good.
a young age, no matter who you hang around, like if you don't allow the way they live their life to affect how you live yours, you can hang around anybody.
Hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of my friends and my circle of friends, I was always the old guy. I was the old spirited guy that everybody called granddaddy, right? That always gave advice. So
Yeah.
God has just always had this, I guess you could say, anointing on my life,
Hmm.
right? So it never really shaped me. Like, I've never done drugs, don't have any children, praise the Lord, right? Like, never thought about doing drugs. I was around friends who've done them, right?
Right.
And never stole anything, never
Right.
been in jail, never probably got a couple tickets, okay? But I never done anything like that. But so God just always had me in his hands even at a young
Wow.
age. But for those of people who don't know who they are,
For sure.
get around some people who do know who they are,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then I think once you're around them, then you'll begin to form who you are.
Yeah.
If that can give any advice as far as being a leader and what that means, like if you don't know what the gifts you have and how what are you good at and when you're not good at, get around somebody who does, who can pull that out of you.
So how do you find those people? I mean, you asked me earlier, as a leader, how do you find those
Mm.
that you want to help become leaders? So kind of a
How
discipleship
do you
model.
find those people? How do you find your I guess how do you find your teachers?
Yeah. So yeah, you just
Right.
said if you surround yourself with people that believe in you and
Yeah.
pull out of you what you don't currently see in you,
Mm.
how do I find those people?
That's a really good question, and the only answer I have right now is you got to be curious.
Hmm.
I think the Spirit of God will always convict people. Like, you know who's bad and who's not. So let's just you
Yeah.
know who's bad and who's not.
Yeah.
Based on the good people you know in your life, your level of curiosity will tell you if that's your teacher or not. Like, that's going to be your mentor.
Yeah.
And your curiosity is, I wonder how Pastor Chris does that. Like, I wonder he does it every Sunday.
Yeah.
Every Sunday he's preaching, but also still building such a massive church and still pouring into some people. How does he do that?
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe it's maybe it's a teacher at your school for young people. Maybe it's one male teacher, because I didn't have that many male teachers in my school.
Yeah.
But maybe that's one male teacher that's always, he dresses nice, he speaks well, he handles things, he handles conflict well. So these are all things you can look for too, as far as when you're looking for somebody to be your mentor. How do they handle conflict? How do they handle heated situations? Not
Right.
just conflict, but things that get real heated real quick. And what they do under pressure.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So you really you got to be curious. You got to be curious, but you also got to be a watcher. Like, watch the person that you
Right.
want to mentor you first before you even ask questions about life or whatever. That makes sense? Does
Yeah.
that give you a good answer?
Yeah.
Right, because I mean that's what's happened to me. I mean, I've never asked anybody to mentor me.
Right.
I've always watched them first,
Yeah.
and then I ask questions.
Yeah.
Ooh, you got me thinking now. Listen, I hope and pray that somebody's young is listening to this
Yeah.
or watching this. Like, you can learn a lot from anybody.
Mm.
by watching them.
Yeah.
You
Good
don't
and bad.
You don't good and bad. You don't always have to ask them questions.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot from them just watching them.
You don't
Right.
even have to know them.
You don't have to know them. That's right. Not only do you not have to know them, you don't even have to know their name. You don't have to know where they've been. Learn from watching. Listen, I guess I've stayed in this realm of good
Yeah.
my entire life and pray that I continue to stay in this realm.
Yeah.
Is because I think as a young person, I was wired to watch before I speak. Maybe that's a cultural thing. I'm not sure. Maybe because my aunt always told me you only speak when you're spoken to.
Yep.
But the thing about my aunt and the people who raised me, my grandmother and my uncle, is even though we only speak when we're spoken to, they still let us speak. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
But my auntie, she said, you got 2 eyes and 2 ears, honey. You need to watch before you see. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
even if you walk into a room, like, scope the room out. Scope the room out. I think some of the best leaders are the ones who can see the room and see what kind of atmosphere they're in. Like, see.
You got to see the room to feel the room.
Oh, that's good. See the room to feel the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, man, I'm trying.
Isn't there like a Bible verse that promotes that too? Like,
I'm pretty sure there is.
quick to listen.
Oh, slow to speak. Quick to listen, slow to speak.
I know plenty of people that are quick to speak,
Yeah,
slow
me
to
too.
listen.
You know what? Nelson Mandela. And I know we got to wrap up. Jesus, Nelson Mandela, because we definitely over time.
4-part episode.
Right. Nelson Mandela. His father was not only was Nelson Mandela a great leader, his father was a great leader as well.
Wow.
Right. So his father had like people he would shepherd over. Like these are people who would just like flock to him because he was such a great leader. And they would sit in a circle. And they would discuss the issues in the village. Right. And what his father would do is he would ask questions from anybody, but he would allow each person to speak first. And at the very end, after all the questions were done, after everybody said what they had to say, he would give his feedback.
Wow.
So in that case, everybody felt seen,
Mm-hmm.
they felt heard,
Mhm.
they felt like what they said mattered.
Yeah.
And then he gave his input. Make sense?
That's good.
That just shows you how powerful. Can you imagine what kind of team that was? But that just shows you how powerful listening when it comes to being a leader.
Yeah.
And just in general. Now, if you don't desire to be a leader, you want to be
Right.
that's okay too. But that just shows you how powerful listening and leadership go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like you've got to listen to the people you are leading.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
In order to know how to lead them more effectively.
For sure.
So
I think the more everybody just wants to be heard, even if my input or my suggestion is not used, the fact that you let me share it goes a long way.
Exactly. Because you never know who you're talking to. You may be talking to a person who in his home or her home never got a chance to talk.
Right.
Never got a chance to say anything.
Right.
You never know. So the fact that you let them do that opens up a can of I guess worms in their head.
Yeah.
That shows them that they matter, that they care, that they mean something. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That's a great value to have as a leader.
Man, I don't know. I told you this the other day on the phone, but I don't know if I know anybody that does it better than you, to be honest. Because I know a little bit of your backstory, and I know a word that I've heard come out of your story is unseen. There have been some seasons of your life where you felt unseen or unappreciative, or I did so much and I showed up and I served and without a thank you or without a but I think you are the billboard for loving people the way you want to be loved rather than loving people the way you've been loved. You see people and I think again, the Lord is continuing to open doors for you that you never thought would be possible because your life mission is to do that for others. Like you want people to laugh that haven't, like you see people when they walk in the door and you can flip a mood in an instant because you see them. And so I think That's such a gift that you have. And that probably goes back to 5th grade or 5 years old, whatever you said when you were doing Michael Jackson impressions. You probably enjoyed it and it was fun and you got to act up and act a fool. But what you saw on the other side was people smile and people laugh and people enjoy. And so like that's been in you from the beginning.
Wow.
And now, like you said, you've taken that gift and you've put structure to it.
Yeah.
And now you're using it as a platform.
Absolutely.
To let other people be seen.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And sometimes I forget how much of an effect that I have when I'm greeting. Like,
Yeah.
I never know until somebody who's leaving says, I enjoy seeing your face. I really do. So you never really think about it. But
sure.
Here's what I will say to somebody who wants to be in that level of categories. Like so people are either walking out of something or they're going into something. And the best thing you can do for anybody is to show them your light.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Even if they don't deserve it, even if they don't understand it, like your light is so important.
Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do for anybody, any season in their life.
Yeah.
So I try my best. Now, hopefully I've done a good job.
You do.
But I try my best to any room I'm in is to show the light that's in me.
Yeah.
Even if I'm having a bad day, it's my job. It is my duty to always shine the light.
That's good.
And your light is your light is your smile. To be technical, your light is your smile. Your light is your hugs. Right? When you hug people, your light is the conversations you have, and you look people in the eye and you say you love them, because people need it. Yeah, people need hope, especially running out. People have trauma outside of COVID now. Yeah, they're having trauma. Yeah. Listen, and we got to go. We got Lord Jesus, we got to go. But we definitely have to do this again. Thank you so much for saying yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. This was really cool. Thank you for inviting me to your home. Your home was really dope.
Yes, sir.
And hopefully people learned something.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If not, just fast forward. He's got plenty of other great episodes. So
no.
Go find a good one. Thank
you, brother.
Yeah, bro.
Wow. My friend, how do you feel? Like, tell me, because I want to know how you felt in this conversation. Write in the comments. Tell me how you felt. My intention on bringing every episode to you is that not only it inspires you, but you learn something. Like Maya Angelou said, who I love so much. She says, when you get, you give. When you learn, you teach. So if you learn something, do me a huge favor, my friend, and share it to somebody that you know needs to hear it. I'm so glad, I really am glad that you got to join in on this conversation, and I can't wait until you hear the next one. Listen, God bless you. Stay in peace so that you won't be in broken pieces.